Welcome to a special SWC documentary on climate change in the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was one of the most influential civilizations in history, spanning from the 1st century BC to the 5th century AD. At its peak, the empire covered a vast territory that included much of Europe, Western Asia, and Northern Africa. During this time, the climate in the Roman Empire was generally mild and stable, with relatively warm temperatures and regular rainfall. However, like any society, the Romans were not immune to natural variations in climate, such as droughts, floods, and extreme weather events. One example of how climate change may have affected the Roman Empire is the so-called crisis of the 3rd century, a period of political and economic instability that occurred between the 3rd and 4th centuries AD. Some historians have suggested that this crisis may have been exacerbated by extreme weather events and environmental changes, such as droughts and floods, which disrupted agriculture and trade. But the Romans were not just victims of climate change, they also contributed to it. The Romans used coal for heating and as a fuel for metalworking, and they also extensively logged forests for construction and other purposes. These activities would have released greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, contributing to climate change. It's worth noting that the Romans were not the only ancient civilization to contribute to climate change. The ancient Greeks, for example, also used coal and logged forests, and the Chinese have used coal for thousands of years. However, the Romans were notable for their widespread use of coal and their extensive deforestation, which would have had a significant impact on the environment. Despite the challenges posed by climate change, the Roman Empire was able to thrive and achieve great feats of engineering and innovation. The Romans built a vast network of roads, aqueducts, and public buildings, and they were skilled in the use of concrete, which allowed them to construct large and complex structures. The Romans were also skilled farmers and were able to develop a range of crops that could thrive in a variety of climate conditions. This allowed them to feed their growing population and support their expanding empire. However, the Roman success was not without cost. As the empire grew, so did its impact on the environment. Deforestation, for example, would have disrupted local ecosystems and altered the local climate. The Romans also practiced large-scale agriculture, which required the use of fertilizers and other chemicals that could have had negative impacts on the environment. Overall, it's clear that climate change has had a significant impact on societies throughout history, and the Roman Empire was no exception. While we don't have a complete picture of the extent to which climate change affected the Roman Empire, it is likely that it played a role in shaping the course of this ancient civilization. As we look to the future and face the challenges of climate change on a global scale, it's important to remember that this is not a new problem. Societies throughout history have had to adapt to changing climate conditions, and the Roman Empire is just one example of this. By understanding the ways in which climate change has affected societies in the past, we can better prepare for and mitigate its impacts in the future.